I think the thing that interested me most about the position at Eastern Hills was just the heart and the mission of E-Hills. You know, your guys' passion to reach people for Jesus. You know, I love, Jesus makes life better. I'm wearing the branding today. Is that too much? But I just think this heart to reach people, and I think that I love the language that you guys use. You know, people who are close to us personally, but far from God relationally. And, if you cut me, that is what I bleed. I bleed a heart to reach people, to reach the unchurched, to reach the de-church, and then to help people grow in their faith. And I think, one thing I've realized, having been in ministry now for a long, long time, is that the entropy in church world is always towards the insider. And I think we have to, and we want to obviously help people to grow and develop in their faith and mature spiritually, but I think we have to fight this entropy, this gravitational pull towards the 99 if we are to reach the one. And I feel like Eastern Hills gets that, and the people that I've met, the staff that I've met, there's just this undivided passion to reach people for Jesus. So I love the mission, reach out, grow deep, partner with families. Someone on the search team said, we major on the majors. And I love this idea of just being determined not to get caught up in, political polarization or culture wars. And to be honest, as an outsider looking into the American church, I think, so much of the church that I see is divided, and they're divided on all this crazy polarization stuff. And I just love E-Hills' heart to just kind of cut through all of that and say, we're a Jesus church, and we're about reaching people with this message of Jesus makes life better. Not easier, but better. And so for me, that's really the heart. And then the last thing I'll say, and there's so much more I could say, but the last thing I'll say is just the people. The people, and obviously we didn't know this fully when we were looking online and looking at churches, but when we got there and when we got to meet the people, and even in the interviews building up to our visit, the people of E-Hills, they lay down to earth. They don't take themselves too seriously, but they take the mission seriously. And we actually had fun. We had fun with the search team, with the elders, with the staff. And I think ministry is meant to be not simply endured, but also enjoyed. And I feel like getting to work with the staff of E-Hills and the people of E-Hills, I think it's going to be fun as we're on this very serious mission of reaching people. So I think the mission and the vision, the determination to major on the majors, that we're real over religious. I love that statement. And the people, I think that statement was evident in the people that we got to meet. So, yeah. Sure. There's been so many moments and scriptures and God speaking to us so clearly around leading up to us being at Eastern Hills. It's actually been kind of crazy. I don't even have time to get into all of it, but we've just had in many ways, the move doesn't really make sense for us. We're happy in South Africa. We love this country. We love Grace Family Church. We live on the beach. Our kids go to a great school. This move makes absolutely no sense on paper. And when probably about a year ago, we started sensing this call that, God had something more for us or different for us, we were a bit like, well, what does that look like, God? What does that mean? Because, and initially that felt like, okay, maybe one day when our kids are finished high school or they go off to university, maybe we'll plant a Grace Family Church London or a Grace Family Church, New York or something. But then God began to speak to us and kind of saying, well, actually that timeline looks a little different. And, in our head, the call to grace and the call to ministry was kind of one and the same thing. So it was quite a surprise for us when God was like, actually, you're not going to finish your season at Grace. And again, we didn't know what that meant. We kind of fast forward and we've been at Grace for 16 years, 17 years. And then we thought, okay, well, are we going to retire at 65, having done 40 years of ministry? And that's obviously a great story, but that's not necessarily, I felt like God said, that's a great story. It's just not going to be your story, So it started way back last year, a year ago, Ecclesiastes 11, there's a line that says, ship your grain overseas. And so we were like, okay. And then this kind of grew, and we had people speaking into our lives who knew nothing about what we were feeling in our heart, and they began to bring scriptures to us. And then it was, there's a passage in Joshua where they speak about, crossing the Jordan River and taking that which, the stones from the middle of the river as like a memorial of what God has done. And I felt like God was saying, you're going to take the lessons that you've learned over the past 16, 17 years in South Africa and in Grace, and you're going to use that somehow in the place that you're going. Because there was a bit of a wrestle with us. I'm like, God, why America? There's lots of great pastors and preachers in America. Can't you use someone else? But I think we just have to believe that something of our experience, something of what we've been through here at Grace and here in South Africa is going to hopefully translate and help the U.S. church and Eastern Hills and beyond. And so that's kind of our longing and our heart. What else? James 4 is a key verse for us where it says, don't say where you'll be tomorrow or the next day, because you actually have no idea. And this has been a wrestle with us, because for a long time we've known God has called us, but we didn't know where. We knew to the US, but we didn't know which church. And then, so James says, don't say where you're going because you know nothing. I know. But then he says, but if you know what the right thing to do is and you don't do it, then that's actually disobedience. And that's almost where it got to the point where it felt like if we don't actually pursue this call, then we're actually almost being disobedient to God. And so right from the beginning, we told the leadership, we told the eldership, we just wanted to be as open and as transparent as we could about the fact that we're sensing this call. And our initial announcement to the church was, we're going to the States, but we don't know where, and we don't know when, but we know that God is calling us. And throughout all the uncertainty and all the ups and downs, what hasn't ever wavered for Jess and I together, we've always been on the same page, is the sense that God is calling us. And then the other verse, I'm just going to grab it from Isaiah 58. This is sort of the key verse for us for this season, and I might even get emotional about this, but this has kind of been our anchor. Isaiah 58 says, I will always show you where to go. I will give you a full life in the emptiest of places, firm muscles, strong bones, and you'll be like a well-watered garden, a gurgling spring that never runs dry. You'll use the old rubble of past lives to build anew, to rebuild the foundations from out of your past, and you'll be known as those who can fix anything, restore old ruins, rebuild and renovate, and make the community livable again. And that's not, Eastern Hills is an incredible community and God is doing incredible things, but we just felt that promise of God's going to show us where to go, and we feel like He has. And He's shown us that E Hills is the place that we are meant to be. And so we're just incredibly grateful. Wow, there's so many things that make me excited about E Hills. I think I've said some of that, just the clarity of vision and mission that the church has, the people that we get to work with and we've already started to interact with, which is so great. I think for me, the thing that makes me so excited is just the potential. We had the opportunity to stand on the Eastern Hills property. I know it's kind of on a hill, and to look out, over for what us looks like, miles and miles of American suburbia, But someone said, that 85% of the population in that area is unchurched, And that can maybe be daunting or scary for some, but for me, that's super exciting. The fields are white for the harvest. There's an opportunity to reach people, to reach new people, to help Christians, come back to faith or grow in their faith and develop and mature, but also to reach people who are curious about faith, who are searching, who are seeking answers. So much of why I rejected God, was because I had an incorrect picture of who God was. And I feel like the church has an opportunity to reframe who God is, because I think, it's like the God I wish you knew, So I'm really excited about the possibility. I think Eastern Hills can be planting campuses and having an even bigger impact in terms of its outreach, in terms of For Aurora and the amazing things that you guys are already doing. But imagine, I think God's going to do even more. And I just have a real sense, of that immeasurably, abundantly more than we can ask, think, or imagine. So that's really what excites us for E Hills, amongst a whole bunch of other things. And so, yeah.